It's one thing to start a box truck company, but it's another thing to scale it into multiple trucks, and I'm gonna show you how and when's the right time to do it. For those that don't know me, my name is Kobe from K King Trucking, and I run a box truck company. Last year we did 1.7 million in gross revenue. A lot of people ask me when's the right time to scale their box truck business, and there's multiple things that you wanna have in place before you do so. One of the main things that you wanna look at when deciding if it's the right time to scale the box truck business is if you have 3 good solid months of profit. When we're doing our profit and loss, we wanna make sure that we're in the green every single month, of course. It's not to say that you'll ever not be in the green, but you wanna make sure that when you're deciding to scale, that you have 3 solid months of profitability. So when you're breaking down your profit and loss, as an owner operator, of course you're driving and operating the truck, and of course you have daily expenses and monthly expenses that you have at home while you're on the road. But at the end of the day, to be able to scale, you have to be able to pay someone else a salary or cents per mile, whatever the case, for that month. So when you're looking at your profit and loss, if you're gonna take away 5,000 at least from the business per month, say my bills are 5,000, and I'm taking that from the business to pay myself as an owner operator, I have to look at the profit and loss and say, okay, if I took 5,000 and I paid someone else, what is the business gonna retain after that? And the rule of thumb is to have at least 5,000 left over after paying someone else for the business. So that means the truck would have to essentially profit at least 10,000 to know if you're in a good spot to scale as an owner operator. Whether you're an owner operator or not in the business, you still wanna pay yourself like you're a different driver. So you have to make sure that the business is profiting money, whether you're the driver or not, like I always say. So when you're looking at your 3 months of profit for the business, if you're in the green while paying yourself, let's say $5,000 per month, and you still have at least $5,000 to $10,000 left over per month for the business, then you're in a good place to scale. Now, when it comes to actually buying a second truck, of course you can cash the truck and you can finance the truck, so there's different ways to do so. But you really wanna make sure that you know your numbers as far as your output per month. What your overhead is as a person, what the overhead is as a business, and what you can afford to put up while also keeping money for yourself and for the business while you do scale and buy that second truck. So for example, let's say my bills at home are pretty high. Let's say my truck note and my truck insurance are all pretty high. Let's say my truck note is $1,500, $2,000 a month, for example. Let's say my truck insurance is over $2,000 a month. My numbers are gonna be pretty high for the business, whether I'm an owner operator or not in that scenario. So I would want to have a bigger cushion for savings when I'm gonna buy that truck. So even if my down payment for a new truck is 10,000, 12,000, I would wanna have probably about 24,000 in my savings to be able to buy that second truck, because you never know what's gonna happen at home. You never know what's gonna happen over the road. With the current truck and with the new truck, if you have to put some money into it. So I would always encourage to have a $10,000 buffer if possible. Now you can get it done at 5,000, I'm not saying that you can't, but of course it's gonna raise the risk with having a smaller amount of money when it comes to having something to fall back on. Another thing to look at when deciding whether it's a good time to scale your business or not is if you have broker partnerships or shipper partnerships. So of course we all work with a broker or a shipper. What I mean by broker partnerships is if the broker's working with you and only a select few other people, if the broker's reaching out to you on a daily/weekly basis with his upcoming shipments, or if a shipper is doing the same things, that's when you know it's a great time to scale, because they want to work with you exclusively, or at least want to give you the chance to be able to haul their shipments on a consistent basis without having to go to the low board. So for me personally, I got my second truck 3 months in. I got my second truck 90 days after I started the business. The reason was I had broker partnerships already in place. So I had brokers already calling, texting, emailing to be able to book my trucks on an exclusive basis, to where they were booking me out throughout the entire month. The money was already on the table by the brokers looking for my trucks and my business specifically. So it made it easy when it came down to deciding whether I should scale or not, because once you're turning down profitable shipments from a broker partnership that you're booking with on a consistent basis, it's a great indicator that it's a good time to scale. First and foremost, because they're profitable loads and not just loads that are paying 90 cents a mile that another broker may be trying to pay. Once you're turning down, like I said, profitable shipments, you know it's a great indicator to move forward with that process. Now, it's natural to want to be able to haul as much as you can when you have a broker partnership, because you want to be able to upkeep the relationship with that broker. You want them to know that you can handle anything that they throw your way, essentially. So it's natural to not want to turn down anything. And again, once it comes to being able to scale, that's a great time to do so, because you know that the opportunity is there. As all of us start the business, we're all starting on the low board. We're starting at DAT, Truck Smarter, 123 load board, these different load boards to try to find work and source work for their trucks. But again, not every single shipment out there is gonna be profitable. So it's gonna be last minute shipments that may not pay as well. You having to search for the freight every single day doesn't mean that you're gonna be booked the entire month, because you also wanna make sure you're taking profitable loads. We all have to know our cost per miles to make sure that we can afford to take the loads, that we're not just breaking even, that we're running on profit, that we're not losing on these shipments. So broker partnerships are gonna be so important, because not only will you have consistency, but you're typically gonna run within the same rate per miles with that broker, opposed to the spot market where you don't know where the rates are gonna be on a given basis. Another factor that goes in when knowing the scale is if the business can pay for the down payment for the next truck, or if the business can cash out the next truck. I always say it's important to pay yourself as an owner operator in this business, actually take money out for driving the truck, because you want to know what it's like to have your own driver as if you're paying someone else. So with that being said, whatever the business is profiting, that's how you know if your business is healthy or not, if it's growing or not. So when a business is saving up money, you want to make sure that those savings can go towards that down payment for the next truck, and also have the cushion for any kind of breakdowns or mishaps, within that first time period. Or even if you just save up another 20, 30, 40K to buy a truck, you want to make sure that the business is saving that, and you can still pay for your personal expenses without feeling bad. And if it's not the time yet, you can always give it more time, because there is no rush to scaling. You want to make sure that the business is healthy enough to be able to scale. When it comes down to buying another truck, you definitely have to make sure that you have a driver in mind that can be able to drive and operate that truck that you can trust, because once they're out there on their own, they have to make sure that they can be responsible and make sure that they can get the job done the way that you need it done. One thing that I did when I started, I was driving the truck for a good amount of time by myself, but then I had someone that I knew that was looking to drive and I wanted to, be in the business with me. So I had him drive with me for a certain amount of time, and that helped me out substantially, because I knew that seeing him drive, seeing him operate the truck, seeing him, be able to drive up to 10, 11 hours a day, seeing him do his correct, hours of service and everything like that, that made me comfortable with buying another truck, because essentially he duplicated what I was doing and he did everything the right way. So it gave me confidence in buying another truck and scaling. So far we broke down when you know to scale the business, but now we're gonna break down the different ways that you can scale the business. So the different ways to be able to scale your business: you can rent a truck, you can finance a truck, and you can cash a truck. Renting a truck is gonna be the easiest and accessible route when it comes to being able to scale your business. You can go get a truck tomorrow at Penske, Ryder, all these different companies. And once you get that truck, it's gonna be the most expensive in the long run, but you can know, for a few weeks or for a month, whether that you have enough money to be able to scale with another truck. So it's a good indicator as far as if you can make money and actually profit with that truck, while also keeping your truck as busy as it's been. Another route that you can go is financing a truck. Now, financing is gonna be the cheapest way if you don't have $20, $30, $40,000 cash to be able to buy a truck. But you also wanna be careful when it comes to financing. Finance companies are gonna, present you an offer as far as what they can do for you, how much money you have to put down to be able to get the truck, but also you have to be careful with the interest that they're gonna tack on with the loans that they're offering. Of course, when you're starting your business out, you're not gonna have a lot of business credit. They're gonna lean on your personal credit. You also wanna make sure that the terms are still favorable for you to be able to make money without losing too much. So as you grow in the business and 2, 3, 4 years pass, it's gonna be a lot easier to be able to finance with more favorable terms, with less interest, less down for these trucks that we're purchasing. But in the beginning, when you're starting out, first 3 months, 6 months, a year in business, you're not gonna get the most favorable terms. So you have to decide for yourself and for your business, is it better to save up cash enough to be able to buy and cash a truck, to not have to take on a bunch of interest? Because debt is debt at the end of the day. Like, yes, it's business debt, but it's still money that is coming out of the business profits of the owner as time goes on. So you wanna be able to decide, hey, is this $20,000 interest too much for me? Or should I just, wait and save and really just hustle to be able to save up that same amount to be able to just buy a truck cash? Now, of course, the last option is cashing out on a truck. This is the most expensive way up front to be able to scale your business, but it's also the more profitable way, especially if you get a good truck that's gonna last you a while. A good truck is probably gonna cost you at this time, 200,000 miles or less. Freightliners, like I like to go with, about 30,000, I would say, for anything like a 15, 17, 18, something like that, to be able to get a good solid truck. And it's gonna take time to save up those funds, But as time goes, the monthly profits are gonna be increased because you're not gonna have a note. You're not gonna have someone that's calling you looking for that money, and you're also just gonna put that money back into the business. So cashing out is always a great thing, because as your income grows, as your gross income grows and you're making more and you do get a second truck, your monthly profits are gonna be increased month after month after month. And another thing, if you do ever hit a slow time, it's also okay in that scenario, because if you are slow, you don't have a note to pay for. All you have is insurance. So it's just one less thing that you have to worry about if you do reach a month, January, February of the years that are usually slower for everyone, in a time period that you may not make as much throughout that month. It's okay, because you don't have a truck note, you just have your insurance payment to worry about. So however you decide that you want to scale, you just want to factor in being profitable for 3 months, also paying yourself as a driver. You also want to factor in if you have broker partnerships already set up that you're working with on a consistent basis, and you having another driver that is consistent and reliable, and that's something that you'll know over time. And you also want to make sure that you have enough work for one truck, but that you're turning down profitable loads for another truck that you could scale with in another scenario. Again, I appreciate you guys watching. I hope these videos are helpful, as I put a lot of time into them. Make sure you guys keep checking out my free 17-step blueprint in the link below. It's gonna teach you how to get into the business, all the different ways too. Make sure you guys keep watching my other videos, as I try to put out as much free game as possible. And also follow me on Instagram at KK Trucking, as I post all my daily loads, everything that I'm doing in the business, whether good or bad, as I try to have a transparent channel. And I wanna make sure that I'm helping you guys out as much as possible. So keep tapping in, keep DMing me, keep emailing me, and let's make sure that we keep growing in the business and helping each other out as much as possible. Peace.